Bruce, as I'm laying this out and designing how I'm going to make the pivot point and stuff for this motor, I've just realized how your wipers, their resting point is here and here. So that means I'm going to have to make these things opposed. It's going to be a little complex. I'm going to have to add one more arm and another pivot point. But it's got to have it because these inboard mounted wiper arms here dictates that, like if I had them both sweeping, when you turn it off and you had this one lay down, this one is going to be right up in the way. So what they have to do is when you turn them off, they have to lay down in here on each side. So that's going to make me have to do it the hard way. It'll be worth it, the end result. But I'm sure there's probably not too many multi-speed delayed wipers on an old car that oppose. You'll have one of the few of those when I get done with this. So yeah, I might have another one of these, another pivot. I'm fixing to take all this out on the table and lay it all out and design it and then fabricate it all up. The motor out of the Explorer, the one that I really want to use because of the way it plugs in and the variable speed and new and nice, easy to change, powerful, a lot of benefits. This is the vacuum operated system that is very aged and works like that as well, even its best condition. It probably worked pretty good on that newer engine with a lot more vacuum, but still I want to use this. So what I have to do is this rotates and this one just pivots back and forth on vacuum. So I'm going to have to translate that into this and then make it opposed so that it lands in those parking spots for the wipers. So what I'm going to do is build you a pivot right here and recreate this, but it'll just be a pivoted hinge right there, and then come up with some way to mount this motor in here. I'll fabricate these rods probably out of this because the pivots in it are kind of bad and loose, and I want that nice. So this will fix that. I'll make this little piece out of a flat stock and then put some pins in it for that end of it, and then either probably going to drop one of these ends down a little bit, and I'll have to do all the geometry and stroke on this, and then as this rotates, it'll just be pushing a push rod that'll just go back and forth as that rotates, and then we'll hopefully operate this and the same amount of stroke and all that. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of figuring, but once I get this done, this is going to be awesome. Alright Bruce, this is what I got so far. I took my measurements off my original Woodie motor, the distance from here to here, and made me a little pivot. That's the same distance right there. I've got the metric studs. I threaded this, ran those studs through there so I can put a little jam nut on there so this heim joint will clear, and the thickness of the nut, it'll let this heim joint just be tightened down. These rods will be adjustable. They'll be a little bit longer, and the other one will be over here. And then I've got a bushing that fits this 3/8 grade 8 shaft, and I've got a bronze bushing, and that'll just be our little pivot once we get going. I don't have a whole lot of time in this. I'm trying to blow through this pretty quick, so I don't invest a lot of time in it, but it's going to be well worth it to get this motor on here when it's all said and done. And I've got a bushing I've already made for this. This presses right into that, and then it'll have a thrust washer on both ends of it like that when it's in place. And I'll just weld this in the center of this transmission right here, and that's going to be my little center pivot. And then all I've got to do is run me another pivot, a heim joint set up from this, and this will just rotate, and these will oppose and be a bunch of monkey motion, but I think it's going to work out pretty nice. So now I'm going to get all this welded in place, get this cut off. I'm only going to use that much of it, round it up, and on to here. So moving forward. Alright, now it's starting to take shape. You can see I've got my pivot in here. I'll have my bushing on there. Once I'll weld this into the transmission frame there, and then this bearing will press into it, and then I've got my little heim joints there, and you can see how that's going to work. Hopefully, knock on wood. I want to show you when I design and fabricate something like a wiper system or something mechanical like this. There's so many factors involved. It takes a lot of setup. So I've got the base design of what I'm going to do with your transmission for your wipers, but I have to make sure I have room for that to fit. So I have to assemble everything that's going to be in that area, try to plan out how that item's going to work in that area, and if anything about this is going to be involved with the workings of that item. Two of my things are your fresh air vent. Right over there you can see that's your original Explorer fresh air vent. So I'm going to be able to install that on that fan and make a little plenum, and you'll have fresh air just like it was on the Explorer. Your blend doors, they're going to be mounted up here just like this. Your defrost will come out of this side. It'll work just like it did in the Explorer. Your cold face air will be coming out of here. It even has rear air. So I don't know if we'll use this or not. If not, I'll cap it off. But if there's a way I could integrate that in pretty nifty, that would be nice with that rear air. And then here's the unit that I got. That we got the Vornado. So it's a 50s era air conditioning unit. I'll take the insides out. But you can see I'm going to be able to grab this in here, and keep in mind your dash is going to be over this, and be able to pipe these into these so the air will come out here. And I may put a couple in the sides because you'll have a lot of volume with that fan out of that Explorer. Make it work a little better. And then I could use that rear air and run it back or something. We'll see. There's so many possibilities on all that. So then also I've got your daytime running light sensor, and I'll mount it up in the dash somewhere as well. It's just a little sensor that comes through a hole, and the Explorer daytime running lights will work just like they did. So not sure if this one has auto headlights. Let me look, because I got the switch right here. Yeah, I don't think it has auto, but still have the daytime running lights. And then here's our little start of our transmission. So I've bolted everything in just like it was. Now I'm fixing to take it out because I do have enough room. I'm just going to have to keep this as tight as I can. So all about the design I use is going to make it tight up against there. And then I'll have to modify this a little bit. But I was going to put vent ducting off of that anyway to your defrost. We pull all this off. This is going to be the coolest Woodie that there is. Alright, I'm back with the, went and got some 6mm threaded rod. This is what I'm going to make the arms in between your hind joints with. And that ought to go along pretty quick. May have to put a little backbone in it or something in between it there, because I'm going to have to do a little bit of bends to get my geometry straight. I've got this all whittled down, and I've dressed this back. These are grade 8 6mm bolts as well. I got a bushing that, you know, from Ace Hardware, pretty standard bushing, ought to last a long time. And then I'll have a thrust washer on the back side of it. And I've cut this to fit where it fits right in there, where all that tightens down just about the same time. And if not, I'll have to shim it, because I want to try to prevent any squeaks or noises or rattles or anything. This thing needs to be smooth and smooth. So I've shimmed it out. I've got as low as possible down to here. Maybe a little stand to hold this for now. But and then I've done the same over here. The 6mm bolts, and they're in there. And then I'll just put the rods in there, and then hopefully they'll pose and just run right along. And I'll mount this pump over here somewhere, I think on this side, and just let it cycle down here. I determine the length of that arm, but once I got that down, should work. So I'm getting somewhere, and I want to show you how this is looking now. So now I've got all this in. I don't have a whole lot of time in this. I got a couple of hours in what I did, because everything's pretty much generic. Look, that's pretty neat, ain't it? Now all I got to do is put this motor over here and mount it, and I'll use some of the original brackets with it. I'm fixing to chop it off and tack weld it in place and run another little drive shaft, make another little drive shaft, and then this will be working. We'll mount that in there and put some power to it and operate it and make sure it clears everything, because the wiper system is the first thing to go up under the dash on this car, and I got to get it completely working in place, and then build the air conditioner and finish up the steering column and work my way out from there. But yeah, that's pretty nifty right there. Now I've got everything put back in here, and to check all my clearances, and I mark my stops in here so I know where the how far this is going to rotate. And you can see how that's working pretty good. I put that tape in the middle to represent the center of the hood, the windshield. So, and then when they rest, they're both going to be just right. So that's working out pretty good. But now I need to know the speed and stuff of this motor, because I can't have them going too fast. So I'm going to make them where they work as best as they can on the highest speed, and then all the lower speeds. But I can put it to the max on the highest speed of what I think this system can take, and then the lower speeds will be what they are. however it comes out. And that's all going to do with the stroke. So I'm going to have a stroke here that's going to be from here to here. So that's probably 5.5 inch stroke. And I've just got to change the geometry down to where it's inside of this window right here of movement. But I can't do that without being able to operate this motor, and I can't operate this motor without everything plugged in. So I'm going to have to pull off of this. But now I know where everything's going to go and where this needs to go. I need to get your battery put back there in the back, the cables run to the back, and the column set, and then start actually installing the harness in the in here and start operating this stuff. And then I'll finish up this. So yeah, we're moving forward. That's pretty nifty. Here's all your wiring harness, all the harness that goes inside the floor, and I'll plug all that in a little while. And all this in the dash, I've got to pull all this out of this dash, then mount it and run it in there, make mounts and everything I need, like the fuse panel and how you're going to get to it and where it's going to mount. And then I can get all that going, put power on it, and then work on my wipers and power all this stuff up and see how it's going to work. But my main goal is just get it wired up enough to get the wiper system done. Everything else is going to be pretty much plug and play, but I would like to have it all in there powered up and start the thing up and all that. So I'm going to take all this wiring out of here and then start working it into the dash. That's after I do the column. I'm going to finish buttoning up the column. I just got a little bit more weld to do in there, and then I'll have it secured, and we'll go from there.